Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Good evening, councilors. The City Council will convene on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws. Remote participation is allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, signed into law by Governor Healy on March 29th, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Section C30A, Section 18. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, the meeting will be televised via Peabody Access Television. 2, real-time public comments during public hearing can be addressed to the Peabody City Council utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Before the Pledge of Allegiance, please join me in a moment of silence for the late Tim Spanos, a great friend to everyone in Peabody and former city clerk. He'll certainly be missed. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor, you heard the motion from Councilor Gould. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Moving on to, before we get into hearings this evening, I'd like to go to Councilor McGinn regarding late 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Late 1 actually is a bit of a moot point. Attorney Kelty. Attorney Kelty.
Excuse me, Attorney Kelty, could you please join us for a moment?
Attorney Kelty, I know you probably didn't hear us there a moment ago. President asked me regarding late 1. I indicated that late 1 is a bit of a moot point now that you wanted to.
Yes, this is with respect to the Wardhurst Restaurant, and due to the meeting date that I'm being offered by the licensing board, which is in mid-December, then I'm going to withdraw the application currently before you with respect to an amendment to our special permit at the Wardhurst, and I will immediately reapply, hoping to get that early date in January. So respectfully request to withdraw that petition from the council.
Yeah, so before I make that motion, Mr. President, we typically don't have special permit hearings at the first meeting in January. It's kind of a procedural thing with the new president and so forth, so it would likely be the second meeting in January, as long as that's understood, Attorney Kelty.
Do we happen to know the date of that so I could? The inaugural night is not a meeting, correct?
It is not a meeting. You're not going to put a special permit before us at the inauguration. I know you'd probably like to, but
back in the day, I got three. I got 3 special permits.
I usually avoid attempts at humor from this seat, but I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
Councilor McGinn, if I may, it looks like the second meeting is January 25th.
25 is correct. So with that, Mr. President, I would move to allow the applicant to withdraw the current application without prejudice. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilors, you've heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. All right, thank you, councilors. Moving on to 4B. Councilor McGinn, I think this is back, excuse me, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, I'll move to receive late 2, which is a request to continue this to the 14th. I would ask that the applicant also withdraw this without prejudice, as receiving any communication from Conservation Commission on the 13th will be too short time for us to review as a council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilors, you heard the motion. Thank you, Councilor Peach. Thank you, councilors. Attorney Kelty, would you like to weigh in on this?
So the councilor's request was that I withdraw this one also, in as much as if the if the Concom does indeed act, there won't be enough time to review. Is that?
That's correct, Attorney Kelty. They'll be providing, if they do vote on the 13th, and I do believe we still need communication from the planning board. It's not going to be enough time for myself as the ward counselor to review and ask any questions of the applicant and communicate all that information to the abutters.
I understand. I really don't have authority to withdraw it this evening. I would need to discuss that with my client. I will certainly explain the situation with respect to the likelihood of no activity taking place that night, but I do not feel comfortable withdrawing it this evening. I would respectfully request that the continuance be granted, and I will, before that meeting date, have addressed the issue of withdrawal.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. With that, I will move to accept the continuance to the 14th under the condition that the applicant re-advertise, re-notify as part of our council rules.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Moving on to reports of committees. Councilor O'Neill, Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Legal Affairs Committee met earlier this evening to discuss proposed changes to the downtown parking and the ordinance. With us were committee members. I just have to find my notes here, so bear with me. In attendance at the meeting were committee members, Councilors McGinn, Melville, Peach, and Turco. Also with us in attendance were Council President Welton, Councilors Daigle, Councilor Gamache, and Councilor Rosignol, and Councilor Gould. The meeting kicked off with Kurt Bellavance, Director of Community Development, giving an overview of the substantial changes and history of the project that's gone on in terms of trying to bring much needed changes to our current parking regulations, but as well as the new, I guess I would call it infrastructure that's being installed as we speak, including new kiosks, electric vehicle charging stations, new parking meters, which are going to allow people to use apps, phone apps to pay and monitor. And I want to just highlight that one of the things that Kurt Bellavance mentioned in his memo, which is also authored by Captain Scott Richards, Peabody Police Department, who came before us too. This entire project, it was entirely, the $1.45 million project was entirely funded using 6 different grant programs, which is just great so that's not costing the city anything other than with their people power and hours putting into this over the last few years, which is, that was outlined in great deal by Mr. Bellavance and Councilor McGinn. I do want to just comment real quick that in addition to, the amount of people that were involved, at City Hall, that included the purchasing department, IT, finance, Department of Public Services, forestry, city solicitors, PMLP, Peabody Police Department, including Captain Richards, Captain Marcus, and Sergeant Harkins, and certainly Councilor McGinn was involved, and just a whole host of people over the years. This is not a small undertaking, in any means, and that was certainly outlined. We ended up with a substantial proposed document to review, and the hours that went into it is just incalculable. So the short version on some of this is that the intent is to not only just bring this new infrastructure in, like I mentioned with the electronic vehicle charging systems, the kiosk, and new parking meters, but it's really going to make sure that we use this technology to help us, respond better as a city managing downtown parking. Rather, I think as Councilor Melville mentioned, it'll be less anecdotal, and we'll have real data that'll show where the parking challenges are popping up and where we need to respond, maybe amending other ordinances in the city code book. One thing I wanted to just talk about is certainly this is an ongoing project. We're going to have to look at setting actual fees. Council McGinn mentioned that we'll be looking at doing that at a future date, setting the fees for the parking spots. But certainly it was time. It's been, I think someone said, over 30 years. The intent is to bring, after now is analyzing other cities and towns' ordinances, their parking infrastructure. We try to take the best case scenario and getting the right technology and getting vendors to bring that in, all covered by grants. And the idea is to make sure we have, right now, I think in the past, right now, there is no parking charges due to the work that's being done there downtown. But it was, $5 was the fee for, violating, the maximum parking period, which, that's really nothing, and it doesn't de-incentivize anyone or prevent people from leaving their car all day there. So we've upped in conjunction with other towns to make the parking fines going over the maximum time to, a deterrent, if you will, an amount. That includes spots like parking and handicapped, which should not happen in any circumstance, but we want to make sure that those fines actually deter, once again, people from coming in. It was a spirited discussion, given all the amount of potential changes that were proposed in the memo. I'll just highlight some that there was, there's further discussions. Some of the councils wanted to talk about making sure that we discuss overnight parking, how the residential sticker program will work in the future. I do want to note that it right now is $1,000 charge for a residential sticker. That's going to be decreased to $600, so that's a positive. But certainly, this is just a framework to get our overall program updated where it needs to be. Through the discussions, there was certainly a feeling that there's some other items that need to be looked at. But at the end of the day, the will of the committee was to vote in favor, 5-0. And the following motion was made by Councilor McGinn. Motion to move to advertise changes to ordinance chapter 19, motor vehicles and traffic, with changes outlined in the memo dated August 17th, 2023, written by Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director, and Captain Scott Richards, Police Department. So moved. I now bring forth that ordinance, the proposed ordinance changes to downtown parking for the full council's consideration. So at this time, I'll move to advertise changes to ordinance chapter 19, motor vehicles and traffic vehicle, with changes outlined in memo, dated August 17th, 2023, downtown parking, recommended changes to the ordinance, written by Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director, and Captain Scott Richards, Police Department. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to request that you read the full section 1 and section 2 and 3, the first page for that ordinance, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. President. I heard you say I've got to read, but I want to make sure I heard the right sections. If you could
Yeah,
either.
absolutely. So it's the second, fourth page into the packet, section 1, 2, and 3. You do not have to read the next page, which starts with section 19-76, which is the detailed outline of the changes.
Thank you for the clarification. For those who are watching, this is a 30-page document, so I wanted to make sure that I did not start reading at the risk of being possibly stabbed by Councilor Peach. Sorry. So on a serious topic, I'll read this. City of Peabody, an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Peabody, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 1. The Code of the City of Peabody adopted on January 9th, 1986 and amended is hereby further amended as follows. By amending Section 19, Article 4, parking as follows. 19-76, stopping, standing, or loitering. 19-77, parking prohibited, removal of vehicles. 19-87, service zones, time limitations. 19-90, parking of trucks and commercial vehicles. 19-93, restricted parking. 19-94, parking prohibited on certain streets. 19-96.2, 15-minute zones designated Monday through Sunday. 19-97, reserved. 19-97.1, 15-minute zones designated 24 hours. 19-98, 30-minute zones designated. 19-99, 1-hour parking zones designated. 19-103, parking meter zones. 19-103.1, parking meter zone for the Peabody Institute Library. 19-103.2, reserved. 19-104, Chief of Police that designate parking control device spaces. 19-106, drivers to park within parking control device spaces to pay established fees. 19-107, parking control device fees. 19-108, parking in excess of time permitted and parking meter zone prohibited. 19-108.1, municipal parking lots, residential parking. 19-108.2, overnight parking prohibited in municipal parking lots. 19-109, vehicles to be wholly within parking control device space. 19-109.1, vehicles to be charging. 19-110, tampering with parking control devices prohibited, depositing slugs, etc. prohibited. 19-111, commercial vehicles given 30-minute exemption from paying parking control device fees. 19-112, Chief of Police designated as collector, disposition of proceeds, parking meter account created. 19-113, use of proceeds from parking control devices. 19-114, installation of parking control devices. 19-115, purchasing agent empowered to purchase parking control devices. 19-116, reserved. 19-117, penalty for violation of parking regulations. 19-118, electric vehicle charging stations. 19-119-125, reserved. Section 2, all ordinance or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. On the motion, any discussion? Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor O'Neill. Would you be amendable to making sure that we have a date to revisit this ordinance? I think that there was a number of questions that came out of subcommittee. I don't want those questions to get lost in the shuffle, so I want to make sure that there's a date to revisit, whether it's snow removal or overnight parking or cleaning the streets, that those all get encapsulated in this final ordinance.
Through you, Mr. President, to Councilor Rosenthal, I'm not prepared to make that motion at the time. My sense would be that if there's an ordinance, and I probably won't be on the council at the time, if there's an ordinance that's adopted this evening and then is advertised and implemented and signed by the mayor, then if there's a willingness to amend, then I think that would be taking place at another council. I don't think we need to set another date, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor Rosenau?
No further comments.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenau. Any other councilors on this matter? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
No.
Kamash.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-1.
Councilor O'Neill?
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report of committee.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions this evening. Councilor Chirko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve item 9A, Class 1 motor vehicle license, 2024 renewal, Acura of Peabody, 233 Andover Street, BMW of Peabody, 221 Andover Street, BMW Peabody Centennial Drive, 7 Centennial Drive, flagship motor car, commercial vans, 202 Newbury Street, Jaguar Land Rover, 247 Newbury Street, Mini of Peabody, 209 Andover Street. Can I take 9B in the same motion, or do you want those in separate motions? We'll take 9A.
We'll do separate motions on that, Councilor Turco. So 9A, thank you. You've heard the motion from Councilor Turco. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to receive and approve all papers being in order under Section 9B, under suspension of the rules. Class 2 motor vehicle license 2024 renewal, AC Auto Sales 3A Bourbon Street, Alex Auto Sales 480 Lowell Street, Auto Choice of Peabody 249 Andover Street, Auto Mall Collection 218 Andover Street, Auto Transporters of New England 55 Rhea Linfield Street, Bill's Auto Sales 256 Newbury Street, Carcraft 258 Newbury Street, Century Tire 53 Walnut Street, DC Trust 258 Newbury Street, Unit B, Desi's Used Cars 108 Newbury Street, Elite Pre-Owned Auto 153 Newbury Street, Michael's Motor 1 Sylvan Street, Prestige Motors of Peabody 257 Andover Street, Route 1 Auto Sales 218 Newbury Street, Spiro's Auto Sales 90 Margin Street, Unlimited Sales 3 Bernie Street, USA Speedy Auto and Tire 108 Newbury Street, White Auto 258 Newbury Street, Unit D. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve item 9C as advertised, all papers being in order. Class 3 motor vehicle license renewal for 2024, Peterson's Automotive, 114 Newbury Street, Pinto Recycling, 147 Summit Street, Building 3D. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor, you heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9D, entertainment licenses renewal for 2024. Amigos Mexican Kitchen, 210 Andover Street. Azorian Brotherhood of the Divine Holy Ghost, 20 Howley Street. Boston Marriott Peabody, 8A Centennial Drive. Cabaret Lounge, 96 Newbury Street. Century House of Peabody, 235 Andover Street. Champions Pub, 114 Foster Street. Cheesecake Factory, 210 Andover Street. Club Louis de Camos, 10 Collins Street. Granite Coast Brewing Company, 77B Main Street. Green Tea, 126 Newbury Street. Golden Banana, 151 Newbury Street. In the Game, 535 Lowell Street. Italian American Citizens Club, 7 Blaney Avenue. La Siesta Restaurante, 3 Main Street. Legal Seafoods, 210 Andover Street. Maki Sushi Bar, 43 Main Street. Not Your Average Joe's, 210 Andover Street. Oliveira's Restaurant, 135 Washington Street. Outback Steakhouse, 300 Andover Street. Patty Kelly's Restaurant and Bar, 154 Washington Street. Peabody Boston Marriott, 88 Centennial Drive. Portuguese Benefit Society of Our Lady of Help, 61 North End Street. Roadhouse Pub, 55 Pulaski Street. Spinelli's Function Facility, 10 Newbury Street. Sugar Cane Restaurant, 106 Main Street. Sylvan Street Grill, 12 Sylvan Street. Tokyo Steakhouse, 300 Andover Street, Suite 9, Tony C. Sports Bar, 210 Andover Street, Wardhurst, 31 Linfield Street. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor Turco. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve, all papers being in order. Item 9E, general licenses, renewal for 2024. Fortune teller license, Miss Russell's Psychic Studio, 259 Andover Street. Limousine license, Michael's Limousine, 161 Lynn Street. Limousine license, Roadhouse Limousine, 55 Pulaski Street. Outdoor dining license, Holy Ghost, 20 Holly Street. Taxi cab license, Sunshine Taxi, 153 Newbury Street. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve item 9F, all papers being in order. Inholders license renewal for 2024. Extended Stay America Suites, 200 Jubilee Drive. Hampton Inn, Boston, Peabody, 59 Newbury Street. Homewood Suites, Boston, Peabody, 57 Newbury Street. Peabody, Boston, Marriott, 8A, Centennial Drive. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive and approve, receive and adopt as advertised, item 10C, an ordinance amending Chapter 11 entitled Finance of the Code of the City of Peabody. And do I get the same courtesy as Councilor O'Neill where I could read the sections? I don't have to read the entire ordinance.
The clerk has indicated yes.
Section 1, that the Code of the City of Peabody adopted on January 9th, 1986 and amended is hereby further amended. Section 2, the sections 135 to 139 under Article 4, purchasing be held in reserve. Section 3, that a new section 11-140 be created under Article 4, purchasing entitled Responsible Employer Ordinance pertaining to projects with a total cost of $250,000 or more as follows. Section 4, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilor Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill.
No.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-1.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Turco.
No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Daigle.
No motions tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. With suspension of rules, move to receive item 8A and 8D and refer to legal affairs. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive item 8B and refer that to legal affairs. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors on the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of rules, move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Transfer a special permit from Patricia M. Kloak, 12 St. Lo Drive, Peabody, Mass., to Greek Habits by Eva, which will be located at 4 Lake Street, all papers being in order, and they will be following the same conditions as on the original special permit. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Just to confirm 8C, item 8C.
Yes, C as in Charlie.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilors, you heard the motion from Councilor O'Neill. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenau. Councilor Gamache.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, could we go to item 10A, ready for council adoption, an ordinance amending section 19-126 entitled Ordinance of Isolated Stop Signs of the Code of the City of Peabody, Benevento Circle. So moved.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Councilors, you heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould, Rozignol,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Council Gamache.
Yes, thank you. Under suspension of rules, item 10B, ready for council adoption, an ordinance amending section 19-126 entitled Obedience to Isolated Stop Signs of the Code of the City of Peabody, i.e. being on Hotel Ave, northbound at Dearborn Road. So moved.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Councilors, you heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Turco,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Council Gamache.
Yes, if I may, I'd like to make a motion. I was talking with Captain Richards earlier this evening, and the ordinance that we had adopted for the car carriers that were illegally parked, Section 3 of that specifically stated individuals or entities pursuant to this section may request the city council which may affirm or remit the fine. I want to strike that for procedural purposes so that they can go straight to the court instead of having us be involved with any type of transactions or anything like that. So it was his recommendation that we strike that part, Section 3. So the motion would be Section 19-48 entitled Car Carriers by Motor Vehicle under Article 2, strike number 3. Individuals or entities pursuant to the section may request the city council which may affirm or remit the fine. Strike that section. So moved.
Can you just amend to draft and advertise as
Draft
such?
and advertise. So moved.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Council, you heard the motion from Council Gamache. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
I have one further motion. Move to request a street light be placed on pole 73-13 on Pine Street. So moved.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Council, you heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Council Gamache. Thank you, Council Gamache. Council Melville.
No motions this evening, thank you.
Thank you, Council Melville. Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive items 7A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K, and refer to the tax classification hearing. So moved.
Thank you, Council McGinn. On that motion, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman, through you to Councilman McGinn, if you could just ask for some clarity so we don't have to do it at the Finance Committee meeting. Looking at like 7D, account balance, I don't believe that's an accurate number. The parking meter revenue, I don't think we've ever had $250,000 in parking revenue. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's accurate. And just some other housekeeping on A, B, C, and D all have the same account number, worded differently. That may be always done. Maybe I just never noticed it before, but A has the account number listed as operating budget tax levy. B has operating budget tax levy. C has 2024 budget sources. And D just says fiscal 2024 budget. There's all titles for the same account number. So just for clarity, so we don't have to do it at the meeting, if you could, on those.
Yeah, so I'll just add to the motion that we also refer these back to the Director of Finance for clarification on some of the observations made by Councilor Turco. So moved.
Thank you, Council McGinn. Councilor Turco? You good? Okay, great. You've heard the amended motion from Council McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Council McGinn.
Just to be clear, they're going to the tax classification here, and in parallel, they're going to finance for clarification. Was that understood?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have anything additionally, Mr. President?
I do not. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
I will also wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I would move to adjourn.
So moved. We are adjourned.